finished, Kelly, and I will speak until I have. This is an area which is absolutely one of the things, discussion like this. I haven't finished, Kelly, and you'll let me finish, Dan. I have said before that...
Well, it's actually my show, Kate. Stop talking, Kate. Listen.
I think... Oh, she's obviously gone.
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. Today we are going to watch a debate where a feminist rage quits not once, but twice, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome. This is not a debate between any two women. This is a debate between a woke feminist who doesn't actually know how to define the word woman.
This is like an insta-repellent for guys I'm not interested in. I don't do anything. I mean, Lizzie, I pop a bit of deodorant on.
And a real women's rights activist that is fighting tooth and nail against some of the problems actually faced by women in the modern world.
I talk to women all the time who feel that the state is gaslighting them.
Which we will get into during this video. And this has the most amazing ending that you will ever see. So with that, let's get into it.
And political activist Kate Smurthwaite and the women's rights campaigner Kelly J. Keane. Kelly, does it undermine feminism to talk so much about mansplaining and manspreading as this new column in The Spectator today claimed?
Well, I think it probably does, because a lot of modern feminism doesn't really, is not willing to say what a man is, or a woman for that matter. So when we're on the basis when the very first bit of both of those insults starts with something that most women or modern day feminists are too frightened to define, I think it's a bit of a lost cause, isn't it?
Kate Smurthwaite?
Well, I just, like, the twaddle you come up with, Dan, just never fails to amaze me. Like, first of all, the idea that terms like manspreading or mansplaining are somehow weaponized. Like, they're just little jokey terms that some women use to describe some behaviors that men do that might be, you know, might not be deliberately, you know, belittling women, or they might not be deliberately taking up more than one seat on the tube. But, you know, ultimately, they're just little jokey phrases that we use. And the idea that they close down any argument. I mean, you then showed some arguments which continued after the word had been used. So nobody's being closed down. It's just like, do you know what I mean? If you keep eating Oaty biscuits, eventually you'll think of a short name for it, and then it's called a hobnob.
I think you're being very sexist, by the way, very sexist by claiming that it's me coming up with this twaddle. This is a brilliant new column by Ayaan Hirsi Ali, a great female writer in The Spectator. It's not me saying this, it's her.
Guys, just a quick reminder, if you want to see this video go far and wide, then you can help me out by hitting that like button below. And if you're getting value from my channel, and if you want to join in the community, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. Welcome, and back to the clips.
Right, okay, well, here's another thing, Dan. Like, you know, there are millions, billions of women around the world, and none of us have exactly the same opinions on any subject. And lots of us are, of course, enthusiastic about improving, you know, women's lot in life, in narrowing the pay gap, ending sexual violence, all those kind of things. And there are lots and lots of different issues which women get.
Yes, but the question is, Kate, the question is talking about mansplaining and manspreading undermining the important causes that you might be fighting for? That's the question.
Like, if you think that women should only be allowed to talk about what the most important issue is, then sure, I'll jump in and talk about female refugees who are escaping rape and they need to be granted asylum immediately in the UK, and the disgusting things I've just heard Nigel Farage say, and I don't think racist twaddle like that should be allowed on any station. If you're here to ask me about the term mansplaining, some people use it and some people think of it as a kind of feminist term, but feminism is not an organisation. We don't have an AGM. We don't all think the same thing. It's the campaign for women's liberation and women's equality, and as such...
Well, you seem to think a lot is twaddle today, Kate. Certainly nothing racist, and so far you're the only one who's been sexist tonight. Kelly J, you want to respond?
Yeah, I'd just be interested to know, when we talk about, you know, modern feminists, where they've been, because lots of modern feminists, Kate included, don't seem to want to talk about the existential threat posed by transgender ideology on, hang on one moment, on women's spaces, on the fact that there are boys and girls toilets in schools and girls don't have access to single-sex facilities, on the basis that we are changing... This is what happens. Modern feminism, the biggest threat to women in this country right now, women and girls in this country, is transgender ideology and the fact that we no longer can define what a woman is without some silly caveat. And we've got men. So actually, we might even now have women man-spreading or woman-spreading because they might require this space, apparently. And then we've got self-proclaimed feminists like Kate Smurthwaite, who are too frightened to actually name this issue and talk about it.
It's not over, guys, so don't go anywhere. I know this furious feminist has just acted on pure emotional impulse and slammed her computer shut. But in a drunken haze, intoxicated by her rage, she is about to rejoin the conversation because she couldn't quite contain the steam emanating from her ears and needed to lash out at somebody because she's so angry at the world and hates men. And you might be wondering to yourself, why is this woman so angry? And guys, I don't like getting into people's personal lives, but she shamelessly writes articles about this stuff that I'm about to share. Plus, she always shits on men, so I don't really feel that bad. In an article by The Mirror from this year, I had the displeasure of reading all about her sex life. She details how she is a 47-year-old woman that is wildly promiscuous and polyamorous, how she is constantly hooking up with guys from Tinder and other fetish apps, going to wild orgy parties, and I will spare you the finer details, but sleeping with different men every night of the week, even when she's on the road.
Haram!
That's not me exaggerating, that's what she says. There is not a conceptual universe that I could possibly imagine where any woman that engages in that level of vapid hedonism and rampant promiscuity would be anything more than utterly miserable and perpetually ready to explode with rage at the world. Not even the most savage man could do that and still remain mentally healthy. And guys, I do agree with Callie J that transgenderism is a massive threat to modern women. But I would argue that there might be one problem that is more serious. Even more concerning is that we are witnessing the prelude to a magnitudinous disaster, and one that I have scientifically named, with much erudition, the fempocalypse. You see, modern feminists like Kate are just the curtain raiser. There is about to be a whole generation of women who were indoctrinated by their mothers, who were raised in the 60s and 70s, the women's lib movements. They think it's empowering to sleep with lots of men and do OnlyFans. Be a bad bitch and you don't need no man. Don't do anything for a man.
This is just a reminder for men that scientists have now discovered a way for women to impregnate themselves using their own bone marrow. And the only child that can result from those pregnancies are female. So we no longer have any need for you, genetically or physically. So, you know, tread lightly.
Just be an independent woman and prioritize a career over family. And since the movements of the 60s and the 70s, this has been slowly building. But since the advent of social media and dating apps, the fempocalypse chart has seen an exponential curve. Young women who fall victim to this conditioning will hit the wall and get into their 30s and beyond and realize, if they admit it, that they have been lied to. They don't get better with age, and being a single, independent career woman actually makes them miserable and lonely. There is a tidal wave of these women being created by modern conditions. A pandemic of future grumpy feminist HR ladies, and it is terrifying.
I think it's laughable that we can
Well, I
talk
think
about
you just triggered her. I
mansplaining.
think you just triggered her, Kelly, to the point that she just did the laptop drop. You know, it's the modern day equivalent of marching out the studio, which is a shame. It's a shame. I want to have open and free speech here.
It's a shocking state of feminism. Look, at Standing for Women, we've come up with feminism, which centres females. The only qualification you have to be a feminist is to know what a woman is and know what a female is and actually be one of those.
Oh, Kate's
That's
back.
it.
Kate's back. So, Kate, you didn't storm off.
£2,000.
You didn't storm off, Kate.
No, I have said millions and millions of times that I'm absolutely sick and tired of right-wing news channels trying to stir up hatred between feminists and trans rights campaigners. Of course, there are minor areas in which people have differences of opinion, but this is an attempt to divide. I haven't finished, Kelly, and I will speak until I have. This is an area which is absolutely one of the things that is whipped up into a needless media frenzy.
Okay, I'd just like to point out a few things before we watch the circus that is about to unfold. Kelly J. Keane, or Posey Parker, is such a class act. Look how well she handles herself here and how well she's about to keep handling herself. She's able to just sort of kick back, have a sense of humor, and let this unhinged feminist maniac completely embarrass herself. You see, I feel like Kelly would be someone who I would like to sit next to at a function. I would say to her that women secretly hate their jobs and that feminism kind of ruins everything it touches, and then she would hit me with the counterpunches. But I feel like we'd get along. She's clearly got a good sense of humor and she can handle the heat, which she showed during her tour of New Zealand when the activist thugs tried to shut down her speech and assaulted her multiple times. And she's also married with 4 kids and she seems like a pretty happy, fulfilled person. And the last thing that I would like you to notice here is just the poetic beauty of the mute button. Whilst Kate is trying to obnoxiously scream over everybody, in comes the glory of modern technology to save our ears and our brains. And it mutes her, leaving her looking like a rambling fruitcake. If there is one thing that could make me consider putting the AI chip in my brain one day, it would have to be a feminist mute button. Something that could replicate what you're about to see. Let's check it out.
Every feminist I know is dedicated to issues like ending sexual violence, like protecting women's prisons, and all of these things. And the fact that you would get on people to deliberately set up. I've said before that if I am pushed into discussing this issue, I've said in advance that I don't think it's a suitable subject for a deliberately aggressive, confrontational discussion like this. I haven't finished, Kelly, and you'll let me finish, Dan. I have said before that...
Well, it's actually my show, Kate, and we have 2 sides of the argument here, and I've got to get both in. And, Kate, this is a debate on mansplaining and manspreading and the appropriateness of that. I'm not going to censor one of my guests, but you might want to know, Kate, that later on in the show, I've got Caitlyn Jenner on, probably the most famous trans woman in the world, who will be talking about female sport. But I'm not going to censor what Kelly J has to say, just like I would never censor what you have to say.
Researchers repeatedly, over and over again, that I think this issue is whipped up into an unnecessary and unreasonable debate by people.
Men and women's spaces is whipped up. Men and women's spaces is whipped up.
I haven't finished.
Well, you're talking for a very long time. And I can't mansplain time to you, but if you talk all the time, then I can't speak.
Well, no, you both have to speak, Kate. So, Kate, you make your point, your final point, and then I'll get Kelly to make her final point. But it's a 2-way discussion, Kate. That's how this works.
I will make my point, and that's the end of it. I have repeatedly said to your researchers that I believe that this issue, where of course there are minor differences of viewpoint, has been whipped up by a handful of extremists who are taking a very extreme point on it. And shows like yours do this to undermine women's rights and to undermine LGBT rights. And overall, overwhelmingly, those sets of rights are actually in the same place, and we're actually all campaigning for the same thing. And on big, broad issues, it's super important that we work together. And for that reason, I have always refused to participate in debates on that subject. I have made it very clear to your producers that if you do persist in asking me questions about that subject, my fee goes up.
I didn't ask you one question about the subject. This is a debate about manspreading and mansplaining. But Kelly J, who is a feminist, brought up the issue. So, Kelly, final word to you.
Well, I'm happy to say I left feminism quite some time ago because a lot of the feminists, as clearly shown by
Kate, listen. Kate, listen. Stop talking for a second, Kate. Listen. Show some respect, Kate. Stop talking, Kate. Listen.
I think, oh, she's obviously gone. I think, you know, many women who call themselves feminists like Kate have been burned by talking about this issue, and then they've been cancelled and they've lost work. And so I have great sympathy with some women like Kate who refuse to talk about it, but not that much sympathy, because while she refuses to talk about it and she's talking about male violence, there have been men in women's prisons raping women. So I can't call myself a feminist in any good conscience, whilst it still repeats this narrative. Minor conflict, men in women's spaces is not minor conflict.
No.
So feminism is the future. Feminism is not fit for purpose.
Sorry.
So that was pretty satisfying, but guys, the broader message of the video is that there are scary times ahead. I would recommend building yourself a bunker and buying a few extra items of canned long life food every time you go to the supermarket for a food shop. It is very important that we are prepared for the impending fempocalypse. So guys, make sure to hit those links below and find me at all of my different socials. And also, if you guys would like to subscribe to the channel, if you feel like that was a good video, you're getting value from this, then you can do so. And if you'd like to watch another video, click right here. Till next time, I'm Jake. This is RattlesnakeTV, keeping you armed and dangerous.